This is Lucas Ross Sports, Lucas Ross, your commentator. We continue our 2022 college football predictions. The TCU Horned Frogs are up next. I'll give you my thoughts on this team, go through the schedule, and I'll give you an official prediction for this team, and we will go from there. But before we do that, let's look back at 2021 for this TCU team. 2021, TCU went 5-7 overall. This team was, really young last year a little bit. TCU has a lot coming back this year. My thoughts on this team, I think they're going to be really a good underdog team in the Big 12 this year. I'm seeing this team, maybe winning, maybe going to a bowl game this year, but I got to go through the schedule and see what they look like. But 5-7 overall last year wasn't really a bad season, but I think this might be a turnaround year. If you take a look at the offense and defensive rankings from last year's TCU team, 66 on offense. Offensively, they were quite a bit young, let's be honest. They were both young on both sides of the ball. Defensively, 118th in the country last year. They were not really a good defensive team last year in the Big 12. They weren't really that good on defense. They might be better this year, but we'll see how that plays out. The points per game and the defense points per game, 28.7 points on the offensive side of the ball and 34.9 points on the defensive side of the ball given up. So, numbers there have to be improved there for TCU, but I think they will improve it this year. This TCU team has a lot coming back on both sides of the ball. Not veteran team-like, but I think they still are going to be really good. And here's that schedule for 2022 for TCU. Here's that opening game against Colorado on the road. Really good game here to start out the year, I believe. Colorado is not a team that I'm really high on this year. I don't think they're going to be all that explosive. The offense might be explosive for Colorado, but it just depends on what that defense does for Colorado. But gotta tell you, in my Colorado video, I said that TCU was going to win, and I think they do start out with a win overall against Colorado. I think this game does go either way. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy win. I think TCU will have a tough time in this one, but I think at the end of the day, I just see TCU being the better team, and that's why I have them winning this game. And then also they take care of business against Tarleton State. So they take care of business they don't take care of business against Colorado, but they take care of business in that next game there. So I think they start out 2-0 on the year. Next game is on the road at SMU. A tough game here, I think, for TCU. SMU has a lot coming back this year. It might be a well-experienced team. They were a really good team last year as well, so I'm expecting this team, to be really good, a good group of 5 team. But I tell you what, this is a game, it's really early in the bye week as well. TCU gets a bye week before playing this game. It's just really interesting. They get a bye week, early in the season and not really late in the season. So that's kind of, interesting to me. TCU, though, they'll get close in this game, but it's one of those upset alert type games, like a group of 5 team upsets a power 5 team. And I see it happening here. I think SMU is going to pull off the win. I think SMU will pull off the win here. I think that is, a game that can go either way, though. TCU could potentially win it. They could lose to Colorado, but then they, of course, maybe they could beat SMU. But I think overall, I think SMU, just the talent is there for them, and I think they will upset TCU in this game. Next game is against Oklahoma. This one is a home game for TCU. I think this is going to be a competitive game. I believe TCU maybe can, compete with Oklahoma, but I think Oklahoma is really too talented. I think the defense for Oklahoma this year is going to be really talented as well. Maybe one of the top defenses in the Big 12 this year, but they still have the talent to compete with all these Big 12 teams. But TCU, I think, does come up short in this one. I think they do lose to Oklahoma here. I think Oklahoma is just still got the talent where they need to be. And Dylan Gabriel coming over there, from UCF, what is he going to be like at quarterback? He's probably going to be one of those Heisman contenders probably. But I just think Oklahoma has the talent, on defense, and I think they will pull away in this game. Maybe it's a first-half tight game, but I think Oklahoma does pull away. And there's that game on the road at Kansas. This is another interesting matchup here. Kansas is going to be a team that has a lot coming back this year on both sides of the ball. This could be a game that can go either way. I'm seeing it as an offense and defensive game, maybe both ways, but I'm seeing it as an offensive game overall. I think, though, the talent is there for TCU. Kansas still has a long way to go before they compete in the Big 12, let's be honest. Kansas, has a long way. And I know Kansas will have a lot of close games. Let's be honest, I think Kansas will have a lot of close games this year, but I think TCU gets a win here after 2 straight losses, and I think they do beat Kansas here on the road. Next game is against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's a team that I'm not really high on this year. I know their offense, is coming back with a really well-experienced team. I just think that defense has a lot of question marks. Let's be honest. I know Oklahoma State fans weren't happy with my prediction, but I'm just not really high on this team. I know it was a great year last year for this team, but every year is not going to be good. Let's be honest. Every year cannot be good. Of a good season. But I think Oklahoma State, like I said, I think they, will win this game. But I think TCU does get close, but it's a game that can go either way. TCU, I know it's a home game for them, but I think it is going to be, I think Oklahoma State just still has more talent than TCU, and I think TCU just still has a long way to go before competing, with these top teams. Next game is at home against Kansas State. Really interesting game here as well. Kansas State is a team that I'm not really high on this year as well. I think they have a lot, question marks on both sides of the ball. This game is going to go either way. Let's be honest, it's a home game for TCU, potential top 25 matchup. If Kansas State was probably in the top 25, probably, it is one of those upset alert type games. But I have to go with TCU. I think with them at home, I think they do beat Kansas State here. Like I said in my Kansas State video, I think they just have a lot of question marks. TCU probably will be fired up in this game, and I think I see them just winning here at home. So, I got to go with the Horned Frogs in this game. Next game is on the road at West Virginia. Really tough place to play here. West Virginia is going to have a young offense this year. Defensively, they bring quite a lot back on that side of the ball, but West Virginia has a lot of question marks on both sides, let's be honest. But this is an interesting game here. I think I could see TCU competing here in this game, but with it being on the road, I really don't see TCU pulling off a win there at West Virginia. I really don't, to be honest. It's a tough place to play, and I think TCU will just come up short in this one. West Virginia is going to be a team that has a lot of questions, but it's a tough environment to play at. Let's be honest, it's a tough place to play, and I don't really see TCU pulling off a win. Texas Tech is next here on November the 5th. This is another interesting game here. Texas Tech going to be a little bit young this year on offense. Defensively, they bring quite a bit back, but this game is going to be interesting as well. TCU could really compete in this game. They could really get a win under their belt. Texas Tech, though, is a team that, maybe an underdog in the Big 12 this year. I haven't really studied them that much, but I got to go with TCU in this game. I think they will defeat Texas Tech in this one. I just think they'll be fired up in this one, and they should be better by the time the season gets down to November, and I think they will be by this time as well, so I think they do defeat Texas Tech. Next game is on the road at Texas. Texas is going to be an interesting team this year. I really don't see TCU competing with Texas in this game. I know it's a road game and it's also Texas, but like I said, I think Texas is going to be a lot better than people might say, and I think Texas does beat TCU in this one. It's a close game maybe in the first quarter, but I think Texas does win it here, and with it being on the road, I just don't see TCU competing in the rest of this game. Baylor is next here on the road, and I know I said TCU will beat Baylor. I just think the talent is there for TCU, and it's one of those upset alert type games as well, like where Baylor could choke at the end of the year, and I think it's right here. I think TCU does defeat Baylor on the road. I think TCU just will be fired up, and it's one of those type upset alert type games. I think Baylor does lose that one, and I think TCU wins it. But it's a game that can go either way. I'm not going to say it's a blowout. I think it's going to be a game that can go either way. I think TCU does win. I think it's a upset here, and I think the Horned Frogs do defeat Baylor in this game. And then there's that final game against Iowa State at home. Iowa State is a team that I'm not really high on this year. I really don't see this team being all that competitive. Maybe competitive, but I don't think they're going to be. I just think they're going to be young on both sides of the ball. Let's be honest, I'm not really high on this team, and I think TCU does win it here at home against Iowa State. And the overall record for 2022 for TCU is 7-5. I'm really high on this team this year. I think they have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. I know defensively they, have a new coach, but this team is looking really good. I think they have a chance to go to a bowl game. SMU is a potential win. I think they can go 8-4 potentially. I'm seeing this team go 8-4, maybe 6-6 overall as well. But I think this team goes 7-5. Give me your thoughts on this TCU team down in the comments below. And stay tuned here for more on Lucas Ross Sports.